Hi guys, and welcome to a new video. Today we will take a look how to use the Raspberry on board for anchorage alarms or other alarms with acoustic sound on the server. Let's take a look at this. So today we will take a look on an active buzzer, so just a little buzzer which we will steer via GPIO driven by the Raspberry, and we compare this with a USB sound card and a sound box in one option, also driven by the Raspberry. Let's see what is better here. We have a GPS source connected, just a little mouse. We need this for anchor alarm. I have a adapter board which I use so I can connect my daisy head here, but this is just because it's a prototype on my boat. I use Mariana for GPS and AIS. And we will test this with different software. Let's find out what's the best one. So let's start with my favorite version, and this is avNav anchor alarm. So first of all, you need to install avNav. So you go to settings, and I assume that you have every else installed already. Yeah, so OpenPlotter is installed, SignalK is installed, and so on. Then you go to avNav and you install the latest version. I did this already, as you can see. And you should install this now if you have not installed it yet. Furthermore, you need to install GPIO only for the version where we don't use a USB or other speaker, but for the version where we want to use a little buzzer. And we need also notifications for that. So notifications, GPIO and avNav must be installed. Alright, when you did this, check your avNav installer and if the processes are running. If something is odd here, you can try to start them, but usually I had some issues first because my Raspbian was not up to date. So maybe even before, you should use the update, so getting the new repositories here and the new reference list, and upgrade afterwards, just that you have the latest version on. So I have already also new updates. You can do this as well. Maybe you do this first, as I said, and then you install avNav. But then it should run, and it runs on port 8080. But let's check this now. Okay guys, now you enter the IP address of your Raspberry and port 8080. You can do this on your Raspberry, then you can even use a local host, of course, or from any mobile device or whatever you like. So if you do this, avNav opens. avNav is a server client application, so even if you run this on the server itself, you need a web browser to open it. What is funny, we are now on the page with Chrome, and one example here, the bar chart. If you use this one, you see several options here, and you see that you're in disconnect mode. You have to disable disconnect mode to be able to edit something. The funny thing is, what I noticed on Chrome, this can happen. On Internet Explorer, it directly starts in connected mode. Don't ask me why. So we are in here now on this option tab. Yeah? So here the bar charts, and you need this because on your installation, if it's very fresh, SignalK is not green. There are some yellow dots because you have to edit it. And the only thing you need to enter is the password and the username which you use on your Raspberry for the SignalK administration. I did this already, and this is important because only using that way we get the alarms in and outside. I disabled the inbound way, so receive notification, because for my testing here, it was a little bit annoying if always alarms pop up in avNav. You would see all alarms which are generated on the SignalK handler. So I disabled this, but I want to send them from avNav to SignalK. You will see later on why. So this must be configured. Okay, I open SignalK, so same IP address, but 3000 instead of 8080 as our port. And we are now on the SignalK dashboard. And what I would like to show you, and we need to log in with the same credentials we also entered in avNav. What I would like to show you in the data browser is that we have some notifications here. And you see there's not much yet, so this comes only up if something happens. Let's go back to avNav. And when you go to avNav, you can now open any map which you have available, but you need GPS connected. Without a GPS mouse or any other GPS source which must be available on your system, you will not get any anchorage. And what I did now is I have a USB GPS mouse connected. And you see that I have this GPS mouse here on my TTY ACM0, and on my TTY AMA0 is my daisy head. I opened the serial tool in OpenPlotter, and the serial tool is dealing with devices which have at least a serial emulation, because this is a USB mouse, but the driver is creating a serial output, an NMEA stream in fact, on the serial device. So I created this as a GPS, as NMEA based, and this, by the way, is the daisy head which is connected, which is also serial output and also an NMEA stream. I did this already. You just enter a name which you like and say apply. And afterwards, you go to connections. You tick your newly created device. It is not green at this point. And you say add to SignalK. And yeah, you just take the auto settings, which is, I think, 38,000 for the baud rate. And you click auto, and then it is created, and it's now available on our SignalK server. So that is what you see here. I see daisy because I have created this one, and I see GPS. We also see avNav. So for avNav, there's no access request, by the way, because you have the credentials entered of the user. That's one method. Maybe you remember the video I did for access methods. The other method is to request an access. This is what GPIO app and notifications app is doing. So if you install these two, you need to grant access for both, so that these apps later on here, GPIO and notifications, that they have the access. If they don't have access, you get usually an error message here. Don't be confused by this one. We don't use zones, but here should be no access granted or something. And then you need to grant access here on the access requests of SignalK. So now let's create one notification using an avNav. When you open avNav, you have some maps like the space map here, which you could use, but you need an online connection. You can also upload own maps. I did this one here, which is the OpenCPN Baltic MB tiles map. And then I even have some CMap open. For our anchorage, this is not that important, and I will do an avNav tutorial. But if you want to upload your own, just as a little teaser, here you will find on the OpenStreetMaps, OpenCMaps download, I put this in the description, some MB tiles, and there's also the Baltic Sea, and you can just upload this on the options side here with this arrow down and then the arrow up, and there you can upload files. Yeah. All right, let's take this one, and I will just zoom in here somewhere, and we can now create an anchorage alarm. For that, we need to go to the options here, and we now set anchor with this button. This is the radius of your anchor watch, and when you set it to the boat, You can also put it on a distance or even to the center of the map. You can put it on the distance. We take a look later on this. I will now create an alarm. So I make a small radius. I put it on the center so that's far away of my boat. And we get an alarm. You see this already. Here's an alarm. It's getting very loud. And let's take a look at the SignalK server on notifications, and you see that we get an emergency notification. So let's stop this. So this is now important to understand. We have notifications. You see something on the GPIO because I did already some configuration on that one. Forget this so far. You see something on anchor. This is now really the default SignalK navigation anchor key, and there you see there are different states available. It could be an alarm. Here in this case, the anchoring process has not been completed, creates an alarm. Before you saw emergency, this was anchor drags or anchor is dragging. And it could be also normal if we have the standard behavior. We can also get, instead of notification, anchor information. So you see here some anchor information, the anchor position, and so on. This is not filled by AV charts, but there are other web apps like Freeboard and the Anchor Alarm plugin, which use these endpoints, so these keys of SignalK. So notifications and navigation both is used, but not used from all of them. Yeah, so far, so good. Okay, now we will take a look at the first way of creating alarms and using a USB speaker. So we have a speaker which is creating alarms directly on the Raspberry itself. I connected to my Raspberry a USB speaker, and you see that besides my AV jack, there is another sound card available which is selected, and this is my USB speaker. The USB speaker, and this is important, is supplied by the Raspberry, so the loudness is limited. Of course, here you could put any speaker system on the AV jack, but you need an external supply. So advantages and disadvantages, it's always a trade-off. So we use this USB thing here, and let's move the loudness up to see what is possible. Let's create an alarm, and we start now with a man overboard alarm. Just we want, because if it's anchorage or man overboard, it's the same principle. One important information, I turned, and maybe you saw this before, I turned the notifications because the notifications are additional on top, and we want to start now with avNav only off. So I said ignore all different alerts and so on. Forget this, so far we come to this. So this is turned off. We just have avNav. It's not running here directly, just the server application. And on the other hand, I have a client open. And on any client, you can now create a man overboard alarm. And you might hear this. It's loud. And I can confirm it from here on any system. So I have an alarm on the client, and I have an alarm on the server. You see that a notification was also raised, but this notification didn't create an acoustic alarm because I turned this off. So forget this. The sound you heard, it was from the USB card by avNav, which is running in the background, not by notifications app. So this is using avNav and the centralized alarm, and now we can do this for the anchorage as well. So we make a split screen now so that you can see this. And here I go to my dashboard, and I set on the left side at the end anchor watch. And now it's getting loud because it's far away from our boat. Take a look. You see the anchorage. And I can confirm it, but it's coming back. Can confirm it, and it will come back because it's still alarming. So we need to stop it. And I confirmed it here on my mobile client, but on the same time, it was also stopped here. We still see a notification, but the notification was silent. The alarm came from the service of avNav. I had it once that there was no USB alarm, and I restarted the service, and afterwards the alarm came up. So the USB alarm, in my opinion, is not 100% reliable. So let's add at least a second way, which we could use for USB alarms without avNav directly, but we can also use it for GPIOs now. So for the second way, we will now use the notifications. The notifications, we did install this at the beginning already, and when you go to sound, usually this is the default setting. So the default setting is that it will react on all messages which can come up on SignalK, and I will add also auto stop here now, so it will stop automatically, otherwise we have to disable it. And I will just save. Disabling is this little button here on top. So you see that there is, you can confirm and stop sound notifications. This is necessary if you don't have auto stop selected, which makes sense. Yeah. So when it's really an emergency, this might make sense. But now for our trial, let's keep it like this. So what does it mean? Already now, without any special configuration, we will get acoustic sound. Let's close this one and just create a man overboard alarm. And I will turn my speaker down here so that you don't hear this client. So what you hear in the background now only is the server. But you hear two sounds. One is from avNav. We heard this before. Then we have a lower tone. And this is the one of notifications app. Let's stop it. And let's go back. So it auto stopped because I said it shall auto stop. Yeah, important. Otherwise we would still have it, and we had to confirm it with this button. So there are now two sounds at the same time. One from avNav on the server and one from the notifications app on the server. Does this make sense? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you don't need it, because this sound now is also the USB sound only. But we can also do some actions on notifications instead of a sound. And we will do this now. Maybe because this is an emergency, I say ignore so that we see the difference. When I now turn this one on, again, when you hear it on the client, I get the sound. I just turn this on again. But on the server, I don't hear it. So this happened already before. Let's just check if we restart on avNav. We restart the service. This takes a few seconds. So restart it. I create another man overboard. And now you hear the alarm on the server. So honestly, I'm not happy with the USB reliability currently. This will not be my main alarm method. And I don't think that this is a USB issue, honestly. I think this is really that the avNav, because after restart it works, is not creating the alarm. The notification seems to work. So I don't know, but yeah. Let's use now what we intended to do anyway. I explained already that we can use GPIO output as well with notifications. And what I did is I added a little buzzer, a little simple buzzer, which is an active buzzer. That means it just needs supply and a digital high to make a sound. It needs 5 volt supply and 3.3 volt inlet for being activated. You see that I put it on 21 and I configured it as an output. How do you do this? You just say add output. You go to the GPIO layout, you pick your pin 21 and you say okay. In my case it's already now used, but I could now use 20. And there's of course a name, you say okay, and then it's existing. And that's all you have to do here. Then your GPIO pin is available for notifications in SignalK, and you can trigger it, you can do something with it. Make this clear again, it is a key in SignalK, so notifications.gpio21 in my case. And when you go to SignalK, you will find this notification, and this is a message on this pin. Like SignalK is dealing with messages at all. It has a message entry here, it has a state, a method, and you can do something with it. We come to this, but it is a real key in SignalK. Okay, now we don't need the GPIO app anymore. We need the notifications app. And what we will do, did I turn off the sound, by the way? Yes, I ignored the emergency alarm, would be man overboard or anchor drags, and I will define an action. So you see there are already actions. Let's delete them, and we just define a new one. There's no action yet. We create a new one, and you have to pick a SignalK key. And we take navigation anchor, or we take now the notifications for man overboard. For our testing, it doesn't make any difference. We just take man overboard, and we could say we react on a specific state, and we take emergency. We could even say only if there's a specific message in emergency, but we take any emergency message on man overboard, and we will say now this is available because we have GPIO 21 available. We could say turn it to high, turn it to low, and we say turn it to high. Let's test this. Okay, let's create a man overboard alarm. And you might hear several noises. One is the alarm of AV charts on the client and on the server. And then we have this annoying, really high noise, and it doesn't stop. Why does it not stop? Because there's nothing to turn the GPI pin down again. So I will quickly add on the same key before I die here because of the noise. I will add an action to turn the GPI pin down. And this must come in this case when it's null. I will explain this in a second, but first, God bless you. It was very loud. So now it's done. And when you take a look at SignalK server, you see on the man overboard, it's null. So there's no normal status. Otherwise, we would have state normal. There's null. So we have to react here on null to turn it down. Okay, we delete them for man overboard. By the way, you can also configure a visual. You see that they are open and they stay open. And if we want to close them automatically for normal, you can do this also with auto closing for some options, ignore, alarm, and so on. And the same for sound. Okay, we will add now the anchor alarm here. We say anchor, and we say if it goes to emergency, we turn the pin up, and if it goes to normal, we turn it low, or if it is sorry, we need of course the anchor, or if it goes to null. It depends a little bit on the source. AV charts or avNav, avNav will set it to null, while other software might set it to normal. Okay, this is done, and now we can do an anchor alarm, and this time we do it with a different tool. We go to SignalK, and let's take anchor alarm. Before we start, just a little hint. I set them all to auto closing and ignore for sound and visual, because you get confused what is now alarming, the action, the notifications, visual or sound. So I decided to keep those two off so that we can really focus on the actions now. So I wanted to use anchor alarm. This is a plugin you need to install yeah, on the App Store first. You look for it, and I have it installed already, which is called SignalK Anchor Alarm Plugin. And then you will find it in the plugin configuration, and it must be enabled. It's not enabled by default. And you see when anchor alarm is set, it will also turn on automatically here. So you can also turn it off here. And other softwares can use this because they share the SignalK key. I mentioned already that this is not done by avNav, but for example by Freeboard SK. So we will now use the anchor alarm. And you see that I'm not directly at the Baltic Sea. I will just place the anchor. I can say there's no depth, okay, but I can say the maximum radius. And you see that there is a distance and a limit, but I can now move also the limit. I can make it smaller, or I can also change the radius directly. So this is now the anchor ridge and the limit. Let's put it to 0. Now you hear the alarm, and I only get now the high pin alarm, and I can't even see it because I ignored them here. And when I move this up, because it is now acknowledged, and this happens because you see it is set back to normal from anchor alarm. The now came from avNav. So you see it's the same endpoint but different sources. This is possible. And we have two entries here, one from the anchor alarm plugin and one from avNav with different methods. And that was the reason why we created for now normal. So here, normal state, and now the pin down option. Anchor alarm and also, for example, Freeboard SK use the same endpoints and keys in SignalK, so they can even share the position of the anchor. So the anchor is still set with the limit to 5. Let's increase this limit to 10 again, or to 15. It's still set. And when we now start Freeboard SK and we go to the menu, and anchor watch, you see it's still dropped, and you see the radius 15. And when I change it here to 20, it should change here to 20 as well. Maybe we have to open this again. Yeah, so now you see it's 20. So you see that these two are using the same points here, and when this creates an alarm, it is really the same, but you get a client alarm in this case as well. Anchor alarm, the plugin has no client alarm, so there's no alarm here. The biggest disadvantage on anchor alarm, I think, is that you can't upload any own maps, so you need an internet connection. I think Freeboard SK, I don't know if this is possible. I think avNav is pretty good for that, but it had the disadvantage that the alarm on the server without the notifications app was not 100% reliable with my USB speaker. What is the summary in a nutshell? Yeah, first of all, I have to say I would not rely on the alarm server of avNav, because I had it 2 times that it disappeared after an alarm. Okay, so the alarm came, but afterwards it didn't came up, and I had to restart the service. But it still worked using the notifications app here. Yeah, so maybe the notifications app is a good way. And now the question is, using this sound of the notifications app, you could change the sound and the USB sound box, or using rather the actions method using GPIOs and the active buzzer. Honestly, I think both ways will work, and maybe both is even better. If you have both, you have a redundant system, and yeah, one has really a high tone and you can't change the sound, and the other one here, you could even put a new sound in. I don't know what you prefer, just take one of both or both. I think both ways are okay. Which program is the last question? Yeah, Freeboard SK I'm not familiar with that. The Anchor alarm plugin is nice, but it needs internet connection. You can't upload own maps, and it has no client alarm. So I go for a avNav now with my uploaded map, and the good thing is you can set it up on a client and you can turn off the client and you will still have the alarms on the server. And that's the most important thing for me. I want that the server is running even if the clients are off. And that I get with the avNav program. That's why I will choose this one. And I hope you learned something on this long video, and see you next time. See you next time.